Hey everybody, welcome to LED Live. If you watch a lot of movies and television, you might walk away that Christianity is kind of a joke these days.
Find out on this episode of LED Live.
There's gonna be a flighty flight.
Light exposing darkness.
Thank you guys for tuning in to our LED show where we share the light of Christ to expose some darkness. Today we're going to get into this topic, is Christianity a joke? Do they have a good reason to portray Christianity in such a light? I mean,
Hope not.
you know, is it got some reason and some good?
Well, God is foolishness in the eyes of the wicked, so they're just like, God, what? You guys are, live up, man, have fun. You guys are like, you can't do this, can't do that. I think that's why they make fun of it.
You know, a lot of shows make fun of Christianity, and it seems like they make fun of everything. So I don't want to single Christianity out as the only thing that they make fun of. But is there any reason why it would be, a good target for secularism to really just like slam Christianity?
Well, people love to make fun of things that they don't completely understand. So that's one thing. Or if they had a bad experience and they just want to throw it in the trash, or influence other people to hate it just as much as they do.
Yeah.
So before we get into this, I do really want to thank our Patreon donors.
Yes.
You guys are awesome. We have seen so much support from you guys in the past few months that we are so excited. Our team is growing. Our work is expanding. We're trying to really put out more content. So keep on the lookout. But thank you guys for your support and for all of the love that we have received from you guys over the years. We are excited that you guys feel that this show is a blessing and we'll continue to keep putting out good content. So let's get into this. Did any of you guys watch Simpsons as kids?
A few episodes.
It's
few
one of my
episodes?
favorite shows.
Yeah? One of your favorite?
Yeah, I own the box sets and everything. But
Now, was this one of your favorite shows when you were a Christian or not?
when I was growing up and even into Christianity, because I was just,
So
wasn't really convicted about my lifestyle or anything, and I just thought it's just a joke. It's just funny entertainment or whatever.
Do you remember them making fun of Christianity?
Yep.
Yeah? And
That's why my parents didn't like it. They knew that the neighbor was a Christian and he was always made as the goofball or whatever, and they would go to church all the time, and Homer would be strangling Bart in service, and Homer's like listening to football during service. So yeah, they really were flippant about church and God, and most all the episodes really.
So I kind of want to show you some of the ways that they make fun of Christianity, and it's kind of alarming to me, and we'll get kind of into why they do this. So Homer actually tricks Ned Flanders thinking that he is the voice of God, and he wants him to go out and kill a bunch of people. So listen to this clip.
All these years I thought murder was a sin. Then I got new instructions from the good Lord himself in his favorite language, English.
And so white bread Ned became the avenging sword of the Lord.
Peter, Andrew, James the Greater, James the Lesser, John, Philip, Thaddeus. Heavenly Father,
Quiet, you! Your next divine whack job is a twofer. I command you to kill Patty and Selma Bouvier.
Patty and Selma.
Anyone else's heart started racing?
Anybody want to comment on that first off? Like, I know a lot of kids that watch this kind of stuff. And whereas like maybe there's a lot of Christians that go, okay, I'm not gonna let my kids watch that. You know what I mean? It also disturbs me that there is a lot of other kids watching that and have, no problem with that.
That's like mainstream television. I don't know, everything kind of switched to digital, but that's like, you can pick that up with an antenna. You don't even have to pay cable at all, and that's what's being pumped out there,
Right. So here's what's happening. Obviously, it's not God telling him to do this, and he finds out that it's Homer that's actually behind this whole mask.
Do you think this is a play on people who actually hear voices and then they say that it's God? but it really isn't. It's just they have mental issues.
I nearly asked that question. I was kind of saving it for later.
Oh,
This
okay.
might be stirring the pot.
I really almost think that what this is also doing is like anybody that claims to have a revelation from God or hears the revelation from God, it's just like you've now planted in the seeds of lots of people's minds that this is either crazy or, it's just a joke and it's really not Ned Flanders.
Should we just address this right now, how to know whether it's actually the voice of God or not? Here's a verse.
Okay.
Here's a verse.
Look it up. If it speaks not according to this word,
Definitely put that in.
Oh, let's find the KJV, right?
Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
So that would be a way that you could be able to say, is this the voice of God or not? If it's telling you to do something that clearly does not line up with the rest of the Bible, then it's not the voice of God that's telling you to do that.
Some examples, like, I don't know if it's David Koresh and who are those guys, like Jim Jones and stuff, like they were sleeping with the women and stuff and married women.
And there was a lot of red flags with those guys, where as if the people were really just studying the Bible. I mean, this is a prime example of like why you want to know what the Bible says as opposed to just taking to whatever any pastor or Joe Schmo tells you or TV, show. All right, let's watch the second one.
Do not question me, the star of the Bible.
Homer, have you noticed how many of your enemies have died lately? Mr. Burns? Sideshow Bob?
You forgot Patty and Thelma.
Who's next? Ned Flanders?
Come on, God does crazy things. Check your Old Testament. Yeah.
Homer Simpson? You made a killer out of me.
Yeah, and what are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna kill you. Because of you, I'm...
Language?
Nothing matters anymore. I'm going down in my hand basket seats too.
Wake up, Flanders. There is no hell. And there is no God. If there were, would he let me do this?
Why, little...
What happened?
Flanders killed Homer.
But you're God. Couldn't you make everything the way it was?
Well, I could, but the big man downstairs wouldn't like it.
Get me a coffee.
Yes, sir.
Wow, dude.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty crazy for mainstream TV to even take that deep of a stab. But what do you see in this kind of like a message? What is the message that's literally told to people?
That God kills people.
God kills people.
Satan's in charge.
Satan's in charge. God also lies.
Yeah.
Right?
And he's crazy in the Old Testament.
Yeah, right? And that literally he could make things better, which he said, I could, but he doesn't. You know what I mean? I mean, that's putting a lot of accusations against God.
Right.
What else do you see, specifically speaking about the devil?
His wife, Ned Flanders' wife, is with the devil? Is that what you're talking about?
How do they portray the devil?
Oh, yeah, like he's in charge and like, give me a coffee.
Right? And he's this kind of like muscular, like suave guy, right? Why doesn't the media ever say, there's a lot of death in the world, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of people starving in the world. Why isn't that the devil's fault? Isn't he the one that kind of causes a lot of that?
Yeah.
How do they often portray the devil in the media?
Charismatic guy.
You're getting into a huge theological question, because on one hand, when you're saying, well, why doesn't anybody blame the devil? It's because ultimately everybody knows God has the most power. And God, it makes it appear that God is ultimately the one responsible for everything, because if you have the most power and you have the ability to step in and change things, and you don't, you appear to be the one at fault.
So what's the reason why then God doesn't step in and change it?
I'd like to challenge that, because although, yes, God has the most power, you think we might have quite a bit of power as well? Because
I didn't say we didn't have any, but that, from the outside perspective, like if you're a secular person, or even some Christians, that's the reason they have a problem with it, because they're looking at the situation as, wait, God is all powerful, God is all knowing, why doesn't God just stop all this?
Right. And I would say because he respects our choice, freedom of choice. In answer to your question as well.
I think it's amazing that God makes the sun shine on the wicked as he does on the righteous.
Right.
I think it's amazing that he is still causing blessings to happen even if you are literally spitting in his face.
Yeah.
To me, that is an amazing, gentleman of a God, right? People are making fun of them and he's not just up there zapping these people because they're disagreeing with him. I think if the roles were reversed, how would the devil react to that? Right?
Yeah.
So in a huge theological nutshell, okay, this is a huge concept to unpack. I read a book this spring about this called Theodicy. There are essentially rules of engagement that God is following because this is a war. And in those rules of engagement, there are certain things that God has agreed to do and agreed not to do. And you think, well, why would God even agree to rules of engagement in a conflict? Why doesn't God just go in and just, reset everything, right? Or just wave his hand and make everything better? Because God, his character and what he's like is on the line, right? Mm-hmm. And so depending on what he does, everyone will see him a certain way. And like I heard it put, I was actually listening to a sermon this morning. It was put pretty interestingly. It's easy to kill a person. It's not easy to kill an idea. Wow. Right? And so if the idea is God is responsible, and if God is responsible, then somehow God could be evil, right? God has to essentially kill that idea. So how does he do it?
He lays the devil before kings of the world, and he shows them the result of his own line of thinking.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen overnight.
No, it takes a lot of time to get there.
It takes time because you have to see the fruit.
But the reason why he does not just react immediately to this, arrogance and this slamming up against him is he's literally like, if that's your perspective, then we will let our characters speak for themselves. And I believe there will be a time when the devil will be shown completely to the world, and everyone in the world is going to turn their back on him, literally because he's the one that's caused all of this. And,
Should we do the same? Should we stay quiet in this situation? Or are we to allow God to defend himself or work out his plan? And as Christians, we take a step back and stay quiet in the face of this?
Yeah, I hope that by watching some of these ways that they discuss about God, I want to really show what the real accusation is against God's character and what the real truth is against that joke. Because there is literally truth in every single joke, right? Mm-hmm. But it's mixed with error, and sometimes depending on the way that you're looking at that, it's like that joke can ultimately influence you against or for that individual.
Right.
See the cartoon we just saw with the Simpsons, and it's making Satan out to be the boss. That's really just an end logical conclusion to bad theology, because if the bad theology understands that God could stop it, but he doesn't, then it makes it look like all the bad things that are happening, well, Satan just must be in charge.
Yeah.
So you're going to see this same concept show up. It's not just the Simpsons. It's that concept keeps showing up whenever this joke is played out in whatever media form. And you'll see it in different forms. I'm sure you guys have heard of Family Guy, and it's probably not a shocker to you that they constantly slam God.
Yeah. Right.
And they constantly slam, once again, what God is like. They're just completely attacking that. Look at some of these clips.
A party couldn't be any better if Jesus himself showed up. Okay, everybody, for my next miracle, I'm gonna turn water into funk.
Hey, Peter, your dad stinks. I'm working triple shifts and I'm still not Employee of the Week. How am I supposed to compete with that?
Hey, where is he anyway? Well, this will be for my fourth birdie. Looks like someone's in the zone. Oh, tough break there, Jesus. Yep. Or was it? Whoop, 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 whoop. Booyah!
So basically, you can eat from any tree you want except this one.
Can we sit underneath it?
You know, I would just not go near it at all.
So these are just a few clips, but what I wanted to bring out is like, what really are they attacking?
The way he is, who he is.
Right?
Yeah.
So the Jesus character really is like what? Using his powers for
his own good, like,
Deceit
oh, I made a
and things like
hole in one or whatever.
Right, which is exactly opposite of the way Jesus really is.
And it really speaks to their perspective, because one of Jesus' first miracles was to keep the party going. You know, he was the life of the show towards the end. So, wow, that's terrible.
And even to the point where God doesn't want you to go behind that tree because there's something dirty about God.
Right. He's trying to hide something.
I mean, you can still see the devil's little lies interjected in all of this kind of joking about God, if you would. And it's literally like, if you were to go ask the serpent in the Garden of Eden and he were to make a joke, this is how it would come out.
Oh, he don't want you to go behind the tree and find his stash or whatever.
That's right. Here's a little more from a more updated version of the Family Guy.
All right, here we are. This seems pretty gross.
I can't believe my baby's gonna be the son of God. Looks like all those years fighting off my own father's advances have finally paid off. What should we name him?
Well, this is kind of like a barn. We could call him Barney.
Yeah, maybe. Or I kind of always liked Tristan.
Oh, my God. You want him to get the crap beat out of him? They will crucify him with a name like that.
No, no, no.
What are you doing? How long you been there?
Those names is no good. Look, why don't y'all just give me a list? I'll run them up to God and see if he picks one.
No. That's the name of a champagne. No. Terrible. These are all just terrible.
Relax, God. You want me to get y'all some wine and cheeses?
Wait, what'd you just say?
Cheeses. You want some cheeses?
So it's just messed up, right?
Like the name choice was haphazard, no meaning behind it.
No meaning behind it. But I do want to show you something. There is a reason why I'm showing you this terrible, terrible, blasphemous stuff. And as you kind of understand, okay, so they're making fun of it in cartoons. They're pointing fun at it over here, right? But you see over and over and over again, no matter what kind of comedy is really dealing with this type of religious take, they're really kind of being extra evil about it, right?
Yeah, they're focusing mainly on Christianity. I mean, this is obviously a reoccurring joke. You didn't even touch every Simpsons, every Family Guy. I mean, literally the neighbor they make fun of every time. They go to church all the time. So why is it so much focus on this? How funny can the same joke be over and over?
Right. These guys obviously have these characters of God and Jesus throughout the whole series, and it's just nonstop nonsense about it. But, you know, I don't see the same thing with, like, Muhammad. I mean, they're not sitting there poking that much like fun at something like that. I mean, this is kind of bold for even our own country's standards, wouldn't you say? The reason I bring it up is you guys have heard of God's Not Dead?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you see it?
Yes.
Yes. What do you think about it?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're obviously coming from a Christian perspective, right? So, you know, this is a movie that what was the purpose of the film, though?
Proving that God is alive, like Jesus rose from the dead.
Do you think that they did it in a respectful way?
At least the one that I watched.
It's debatable. I know why people won't think it. They think, oh, it's a Christian film that portrayed an atheist as this, like, antagonist or whatever, but I deal with those atheists all the time. So, I mean...
I thought it was pretty realistic.
Yeah, especially a professor. And I've heard them say, write Jesus' name on a piece of paper and crumple it up and stuff. Like, professors have done this.
Right. So we have a couple atheists that join our shows, right? And you guys kind of interact with some of the comments and stuff, right? And give me a little bit of the experience of that.
For some, you just can't win. It's just back and forth. No matter what you say, a lot of it is taken out of context. It's not always the best attitude. It doesn't matter how you go in. It's just like wall.
Right. So I've even seen some of the comments that you guys have put out there, and even just like I've even noticed there's a few people in there that you're just like, hey, I love you no matter what your perspective is. And how do they treat that generally? Whatever.
Right,
you guys are still, you guys are still just crackpots and this and that, right? Sort of attack, right? So I just wanted to point this out because I think that in like what you said, some atheists will say, well, this was an unfair perspective in this film, right? So I'm going to take this article that I'm going to read to you here from IndieWire. IndieWire is kind of a website that comments on a lot of different films and things like that. And they're discussing this whole God's Not Dead series that came out, and listen to what the little top of the article says. It says, more propaganda aimed at people who think that religion is under attack. Okay?
Wait, we think?
Yeah, so this kind of caught my eye because of basically, in light of what I've just showed you with, I mean, there's a lot of, these are not just off shows that nobody's watching. I mean, The Simpsons is watched by a good portion of, I would say more people have seen The Simpsons than probably have seen God's Not Dead. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So they're getting that kind of perspective much more than the public is getting this perspective that God's not dead.
Yeah.
So this is what the person that wrote this article was basically saying. The movies are a fundamentalist propaganda aimed at people who are convinced that their religion is under attack in this country, but because it doesn't exempt them from the Constitution. At a time when the anti-Semitic hate crimes are on the rise and America is openly hostile towards Muslim community, to say nothing about Trump's administration dehumanizing attitude toward immigrants, people of color, and the LGBT population, God is Not Dead contends that white Christians are the real victims.
Man, there's so much wrong with that right there, dude.
Okay, so I just want to put this out there because this is on the same level as LGBTQ, discussions, people of color discussions, and basically saying that like, hey, look, there's nothing being said over here about this kind of thing like this, but there's obviously somebody just talking about your God or whatever, right? Now I find that very interesting because, wow, I mean, there's some real genuine attacks against Christianity in mainstream pop culture.
Yeah.
And that's not mentioned in an article like this at all. And even putting it on there like, hey, God's Not Dead is really doing a disservice because it's not talking about these other issues. Because if you, God forbid, you said something negative toward the LGBTQ community in a public film, I mean, we talk about it on a discussion on a show, but if you said it in an actual mainstream film, oh my goodness, that film would be
boycotts,
that
protests,
film would be taken down, right?
Well, he mentioned hate crime. I mean, these minority groups are protected by this, hate crime, this hate crime law. Whereas I heard a discussion where it said if some grandma is up at an ATM machine and she gets, if some grandma's at an ATM machine, she gets robbed at gunpoint, the cops will do their best to find the guy or whatever, and he'll get arrested for what he did. But if it was a homosexual at the ATM machine, well, now it's not just a stick-up, it's also a hate crime. There's an additional penalty to what you've just done because you've attacked this minority group or whatever.
Interesting. I wonder if you could make that same claim if the person that got stuck up was a Christian.
I know, right?
You know what I mean? Like, hey, they're
You're
against my
attacking because I'm a
religion or
Christian.
whatever. Yeah, that's interesting. Listen to what the article goes on to say. This is the writer, of course. He's saying, most importantly, the script for this installment is, or at least on its surface, much less absurd than God's Not Dead or its first sequel. So he's outright calling the other movie totally absurd. And then even later on in the article, he says, while it may seem like an irrelevant political knock against dramatically inert movie, do you know what inert means? Something that has the failure to move you. So if it's inert, it means this is the weakest movie. It didn't move anyone at all. That it's way too hooky and not a very nice word for any critic to engage in a serious capacity.
They say that a lot. They say that about a lot of Christian films in general.
Yeah.
They're subpar and all that kind of stuff. But I'd say just because there are other issues doesn't mean that we should keep quiet about issues. Attacks against the Muslim community, attacks against the Christian community. These are both issues. One isn't more important than the other.
I would say that any attack against anyone because of their race, color, gender, any of that, I mean, even if you disagree with that gender issue, is wrong. You should not attack that person. It's okay for you to have a difference of opinion, which I can appreciate. If somebody has a difference of opinion than Christianity, then that's fine. We live in a country where we should have the ability to have a difference of opinion. But it's interesting to me that in this same article where he's basically saying that this movie was literally ridiculous because of the way that it portrayed an atheist, and then on the same hand, slam Christianity, I don't think is very productive.
And it's the way that it's portrayed as well. So Christian jokes are in sitcoms, and you're laughing and joking. But if something's happened in the Muslim community, it's published on the news as something bad. Both are bad, but it's like pushed out in different ways so that the person watching it accepts it in two different ways.
Right.
And both are wrong.
But I think it's interesting because I don't think that the Christian, at least the real Christian that is really adhering to biblical principle and stuff, we're not going to react.
No.
That's not what the Bible's actually ever telling you to do.
Right.
So it's an easy target because this group is never going to react. You might have other religious organizations that if you attack them, they would do something very drastic to retaliate to that attack.
Well,
Church of Satan.
Because
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
There are some that react.
Yes.
You know, Westboro Baptist Church is known for their reactions on certain topics.
That would be debatable whether they are a real organization. I don't believe that any sort of hostile, reaction is warranted at all. But I think you're right. You can't say that Christianity as a whole doesn't react ever. There are certain sects of Christianity that may react. But I think that's the same as applying to, let's say, a Muslim. I think it's not correct or politically correct to say that just because there's a Muslim extremist group that will react to a political situation, that all of a sudden all Muslims are evil. I think many Muslims are wonderful people and have wonderful humanity-type relationships. And so I think the same should be applied here. I think this is kind of really blanketing this whole idea of Christianity and putting a bad light on it.
Yeah, I can't think of any secular entertainment at all that portrays Christians or God in a good light. Whereas you see Hellboy, Satan is the superhero. I mean, you might say, well, it's secular. Why are they wouldn't even talk about the Bible, but they do. Satan is a biblical character who's portrayed to look cool, or people are like, oh, I wouldn't mind going to hell. All my friends are going to be down. There's going to be a party, the highway to hell. It's like but then it was heaven, oh, boring, sitting on a cloud playing a harp, and let's make fun of them.
Right. And they push other stuff, if someone is in a rough patch, hey, go see the witch doctor, or maybe you should try yoga, maybe meditate a little bit. So you push those, but not this.
Yeah.
Also, definitely we shouldn't react. Maybe we should more respond. Jesus always had a response to people, and he responded in different ways. I think us as a Christian community should do more to respond to these people instead of reacting.
This is our response.
It's a good point, right? We're discussing it. So you brought up the Church of Satan.
Yeah.
Reacting to a misportrayal of their iconic image, right? Here's a little clip from ET Live. This is them discussing what was happening in the Satanic Church because a particular Netflix show called Sabrina the Teenage Witch misput a image of the Church of Satan's icon, which is Baphomet.
Yeah, I would really misput. I mean, wasn't it pretty much an exact duplicate? That's not like a mistake.
Yes, but I think what was on the table was that they had misput
They portrayed it in the wrong way.
Yeah, they portrayed it in the wrong.
Okay.
They changed it
they're
enough.
Like, they're putting this in the background in an evil scene, like we're all evil.
How is it supposed to be portrayed?
Yeah. So anyway, here's a little thing, right?
Netflix's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina has invoked an unholy terror and a $150 million lawsuit from the Satanic Temple.
I don't even really want to talk about this.
But
we're going to talk about it anyway.
We're going to.
To break down the devil in the details, we are joined by FIU law professor and author of Copyright, Class Struggle, Creative Economics and Social Media in the Social Media Age, Hannibal Travis. Hannibal, walk us through this. Why is Netflix being sued?
Well, it seems like there's a brief scene in one of the episodes in which the characters go to a large room where there's a statue of a goat-headed man with small children looking up at him. And there's some evil scheme or something going on in this room. And the statue is very similar to the Satanic Temple's statue that they try to get installed at courthouses as a First Amendment message. that they changed the historic picture of the devil, or Baphomet, as a goat-headed man into this more modern version with children looking up at him. So they're alleging that Netflix made an unlawful copy of their sculpture in the show and also used it on social media and in various ways to create confusion between the show and the Satanic Temple.
So this, Hannibal, would be a case of infringement then on their likeness and property?
Copyrighting the statue and trademark in the statue as something that the temple uses to distinguish its services from those of other religions and temples.
Wow. Well, thanks for breaking that down, Hannibal.
So an iconic symbol or image that represents your organization is being portrayed in the wrong light. What have we just been looking at? Jesus.
I just want to point out that this was not a statue that spoke. This was not a statue that told you that, you know, Satan's really a good guy. He's not really evil, this and that. So that would be totally misportraying what the Satanic Church is promoting their God to be, that he's this God of selfishness and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's say all of a sudden the statue was like, hey, you should keep the 10 Commandments. Oh, wow. Now I can understand that you're going to go ahead and sue them for $153 million. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, for sure.
I really, really, really questioned the idea of, is it okay to then put so much slam against who God is in popular culture?
Did they win the suit?
No.
Okay.
They didn't? You looked into it?
I don't think they did.
Wow.
I think it's hilarious. 153 million, just
That's
because it was in the background. How did you come up with that number? But
I think I heard they edited it out or something, though. So there was some kind of compromise.
There was some sort of compromise. I do think that, but I don't think they won the lawsuit against that whole thing. But
can we go back and get Jesus taken out of all the Simpsons and the Family Guy?
That'll be a task.
Okay, so that goes back to what Kendi said. What should be the whole response to this? I don't think necessarily causing a war and then, you know, all of a sudden making this big deal about it is necessarily how Jesus would have responded to this, right? But I do think I think a silent way to deal with it is don't watch these movies. Don't support these groups that are clearly against God or whatever. I mean, know who you're watching and you're supporting and getting involved in that.
Public service announcement, Disney owns The Simpsons now. Disney Plus. They use The Simpsons to advertise Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Isn't that eye-opening?
That's very interesting. So I'm going to show you another one, and this is coming from a comedy Adult Swim, and so not shocking, but very interesting how they're still portraying Jesus. So, not only does this just make fun of Jesus, but I thought it was very interesting how they said, you know, the most anticipated event, right? That people are waiting for. The manner in which Jesus is coming, he comes to the hood in not a way that people expect. Remember, we just did a show on the Messiah. So what was the whole purpose of really throwing out there this kind of thing about like with Jesus is coming, but it's not going to be like you expect? What's the purpose of that?
It's like preparing, conditioning you for the Antichrist, right?
Right? You know, cartoons were used in political spheres way back in, I think, Napoleon's day, and even afterwards. And what the cartoons initially did was they took the opposing political power and they made fun of them. That's all they were designed to do, was actually make fun of the other side that was meant to influence people's views of who that entity was.
That's the origin of cartoons?
That's the origin of where comics and all funny papers and all that kind of stuff actually came from. And they were literally to make fun of political figures. And that had an influence over people, which ultimately would influence the government, right?
Wow.
But look at what we've done with this. We have now complicated this comedy, so to say, where this is a very real event.
I'm going to throw out what might be an interesting discussion point, and that is, I'm going to guess that some of this, maybe if it's as much as half of it or more, could be potentially motivated not so much by ideals of God, but the way that Christians themselves behave and the false theology that they put forth, that they say they believe. So, I'll give you an example. If you're a Christian and you're the idea in Christianity is Jesus is coming back, but you don't live like that, then you can see how something like this boils to the surface as a joke.
Wow. That's
right?
deep.
And so many other things are like that. If you're a Christian and your life is carousing and drinking and partying, then that reflects back on your God. And so then Jesus gets portrayed as carousing and drinking and partying. If Christians were 100% doing the will and the works of Jesus, I'm going to guess that there would be less jokes.
That is deep to think about.
Because how would you make fun of somebody that's...
What would you have to say about
that's
it?
really out there helping, loving, rushing into the natural disasters? I mean, that's deep.
Wow.
I mean, that is a call for us to really say, is this what the non-Christian actually views of all of our work? And maybe we are doing them a disservice by not portraying, who the real character of Jesus is. That's an interesting question.
The concept of being a Christian is to be a follower of Christ. If we really looked like Christ, would we be made fun of? Because one of the things I often throw up at atheists when they start attacking Christians and stuff, or just God in general or whatever, I'm like, tell me what exactly is it that you don't like about Jesus? Tell me, a man who historically walked the earth for 33 years and pointed at the religious Pharisees and called them hypocrites. That's something that atheists could agree with. Somebody who healed people and fed people and washed their feet and prayed for them that were crucifying him and teaching to love everyone. Tell me, what is it about him that you don't like?
This is actually Gandhi's problem too. Gandhi said, I would be a Christian except for Christians. Recognizing, there's so many inconsistencies in the behaviors of the people that he couldn't bring himself to be a Christian. And you think about this hits harder to home in reality in your own home. Because if you are not portraying the principles of Christ and Christianity in your own home, what are your kids going to do? They're going to grow up and they're going to think this is a joke. Right? A little bit different sense of a joke, but they're going to reject what it is that you're putting forth and not have anything to do with it. So the world's, I think, just taking a step further and said, okay, we've rejected it. We're not having anything to do with it. Now we're going to make fun of it because it's just stupid.
Wow.
It is interesting, though, when Jesus said, take heart because the world hated me. They're going to hate you because they hated me. They're not going to understand you because they didn't understand me. I mean, if I look at the life of Jesus, who was the very embodiment of everything we're talking about here, and the very group that he literally called his own people looked at his works, looked at his things, and rejected him because they had the wrong spirit. I'm gonna just go out on a limb here that even in the face of that, people were seeing a real representation of God's government right there, and they were like,
in that
"This is a
context,
joke."
it's all for the right reason, right? So let's not bring that upon ourselves for the wrong reason.
I agree. I definitely think that, we need to be way more diligent in the way that we are reaching out to these individuals. And if they are being mean to us, find a way to heap fiery coals upon their heads and love them to death.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
When they force you to walk 1 mile, walk 2.
Bless those that curse you.
Feed
That's
your
right.
enemy when he's hungry. I mean, can you imagine that? You're the one who's been persecuting you forever, and you find out that they're in a situation where they can't even afford food. You're like, dude, I got you, man. You need some food? They're going to be like, whoa. What?
Right. A film that came out that was particularly alarming to me called The Invention of Wine. So I'm going to play for you the little trailer for this. You can see the context of what the whole the film is about, because they were kind of discussing this idea: what if you lived in a world where there was no lying, there was no evil, so to say?
Oh, terrible!
What would that world be like? You know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah. Look at how they portray this.
I'm Mark. How are you?
A little frustrated at the moment. Also equally depressed and pessimistic about our date tonight.
Sure.
Imagine a world where everyone can only tell the truth.
I had a little sip of this from right there.
I'm with him right now. Seems nice. A bit fat.
She's way out of your league.
About everything,
I loathed almost every minute that I worked for you.
all the time.
I've always hated you. You've always hated you. I didn't know that. Yeah, a lot of people know it. Don't you wish you could change things?
How much are you going to be withdrawing today, sir?
$800.
It says here that you only have $300. It seems our system has made a mistake. Here you go.
Today, I stumbled upon something that no man has ever stumbled on before. The world's first lie.
The Invention of Lying.
This is the greatest movie ever made.
Okay.
Whoa,
So-
whoa. Did you hear the music or whatever at the end? Like, oh, it was almost like heavenly. Like, there's liars and thieves and all these people are on the outside of the city. Like, heaven is where there's no lies.
So have any of you seen this movie?
Yes.
No. Kendi has seen this movie.
Finally, right?
Shocker.
Okay, wait. When did you watch this movie?
Oh,
Because it's been out a while.
A preteen.
Preteen?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the
Pretty young.
trailer, I actually cut out all the sexual references because there were so many sexual references in this trailer that I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even need to show this. You were a preteen when you saw this.
Yeah, and I don't remember all the details of the movie. I appreciated the brutal honesty, really. I think that's what drew me to it and the humor, but it's probably in there, but I don't really remember all the details of it.
So this is kind of like Liar, Liar, where the whole purpose of Liar, Liar was to show that in a world that we live in, there is a need to lie. If somebody says, am I good looking? And they're not. You know what I mean? Like, do you tell them the truth or do you lie to them?
Scotty, I'd hope you tell me the truth. I mean.
That is what they were discussing. But in this right here, you brought up a really interesting thing, and you picked up on something that was very interesting. You hear this heavenly music.
It was like clouds and a bright light.
Clouds in the bright light, and he's the first one that lies. I want to show you the poster, okay? What do you tell me? Look at this poster and you tell me what you see about it.
In the clouds.
This looks like me when I get to heaven.
Okay, so in a world where everyone can tell the truth, he just invented the lie. Okay, what about this poster here? This is their poster, by the way. I didn't make these.
I can't see that.
What do you see?
Like three. That's
like a
Okay,
person.
three guys.
Oh, wow.
That are the same person.
Oh,
that
wow.
are interesting. That are all dressed the same. Wow, good job, Michelle.
But one of them can lie.
Isn't that interesting? And all of a sudden, you're in the clouds. You're the three guys, and you lie.
That's wild.
There's so many subtle things that are inside of this film that I really wanted to show you this. Now, Proverbs, I'm going to read this to you before I start playing some clips from this actual film. Proverbs 6:16-19 says, there are 6 things that the Lord hates. Now, when the Bible says the Lord hates something, you better listen up, because God is a very patient and loving God. So when he says, I don't like this, and specifically I hate it, This is time for our ears to perk up and go, interesting. 7 things that are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes, lying tongue, the hand that sheds innocent blood, a heart that deceives wicked plans, feet that make haste and run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord amongst the brothers.
There's one thing that's mentioned twice, 2 different ways.
They're lying.
Wow.
Because how did the war in heaven begin?
Oof.
It started off
like
with
lying about God's
with
character.
literally a lie. That was what really Satan brought to the table, that brought the rebellion into the open, was his lies. And we are dealing with the fallout from that. So I just wanted to put that in your guys' brain before I show you some clips from this film. There's a scene where he's the one who actually finds out he can lie, so no one else can lie. And then he has the idea of writing down on here the 10 rules that everybody has, and he's going to share the rules with everybody.
And they
okay?
have to believe it because they never heard of anybody lying.
Yeah.
Yes.
You sure it's 10? It's not 3 or 7?
Oh, I don't remember actually. I think it was close to like a number where he kept going higher and higher. I think it is actually 10. I think it is actually 10. Listen to this.
I know some things, some very important things about what happens to you after you die. Everything you need to know is written on these pizza boxes. Number 1, there is a man in the sky who controls everything. Number 2.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What does he look like?
Tall, big hands for making stuff, good head of hair.
What ethnicity is he?
He's a new type of ethnicity. He's a mixture of all our ethnicities.
Does he live in the clouds?
No.
Can we see him?
No. It lives higher than the clouds, too high to see him.
So he lives in space?
Not that high.
So then the thermosphere?
Sorry, people. I've got a lot to get through here. Can we just... Man lives in the sky. You can't see him. He controls everything. Cool? Good. Number 2. When you die, you don't disappear into an eternity of nothingness. Instead, you go to a really great place. Number 3. In that place, everyone will get a mansion.
What kind of mansion?
The best mansion you could think of.
Ah, I was thinking of a horrible mansion.
Well, no, it's the best mansion you could ever think of. Not the one you're thinking of right now, but ever. Whatever the best mansion is you'd like, that's the one you're gonna get. Number 4, when you die, all the people you love will be there.
Will they have their own mansions?
Yeah, of course. Everyone gets a mansion.
What if I want them to live in my mansion?
Well, that's fine. They'd leave their mansion. They'd come and live with you, won't they?
What happens to their mansion?
I don't know. It goes back on the market. Can we... Number 5. When you die, there will be free ice cream for everyone. All day and all night. Whatever flavors you can think of.
Even bad flavors?
Why would you think of bad flavors?
You just said every flavor I could think of.
Oh, no. I just thought of vanilla and skunks.
Well, don't eat that then.
He's describing what happens when you die, which is a very Christian ideal.
He's making fun of some real truths. Everybody gets a mansion.
Right? These are things that Jesus says.
He has 2 pizza boxes, like 2 tables of stone.
Right? Which is the very foundation of the government of God. Right? And he's really just describing to these people, but he's totally lying.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about the person that knows what's going on and is able to make those decisions? It's like all of a sudden in the back of your mind, you're seeing, wow, these are lies that are told to me. And even in the context of the 2 tables of stones, these are lies.
Right.
Because he really wrote lies on those 2 boxes.
And being the one that can lie, he says there's a man in the sky. That whole concept is a lie.
And he doesn't really have answers to these people's questions.
That's
Like,
right.
just trust me blindly. Don't ask questions.
So here's the result of his ways that he's lying to the people. Here's what happens.
If you do bad things, you won't get to go to this great place when you die.
Where will you go?
A terrible place, the worst place imaginable.
What constitutes a bad thing?
Awful crimes, rape, murder, things like that.
Is punching someone bad?
Yes.
What if they're trying to hurt you?
But then it's fine.
Is cursing bad?
No.
What about being late for work?
No, that's fine. I mean, you might lose your job if the boss doesn't like it, but it won't affect what happens to you after you die.
What about if you forget to feed your dog?
Well, then if you forget, I mean, it's bad for the dog. If the dog dies, it's bad, but it's not. I mean, don't do it on purpose. Don't buy a dog just to starve it for a laugh. But, come here.
If I do just one bad thing, do I go to that bad place?
No. You get 3 chances. 3 bad things, and you're out.
Like baseball.
So what? So, anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's creating quite a large problem, right? By really telling people one lie after another, and then it's just getting worse and worse because he's now contradicting even himself. If you just do one bad thing, are you going to go to a bad place?
It's also making God's laws look like really complicated and impossible to keep. Like, wait a minute, what if I do this or that? And there's all these little loopholes or whatever he has to explain.
Right, when actually the profoundness of the 10 Commandments is that everything can be summed up in those 10 things. That to me is amazing. We have you ever been to like court? I've been to court. You ever stood before the judge?
No.
No? Okay, I've gotten speeding tickets, I'll admit. But if you were to actually sit down and read the law books, do you know how many law books there are?
Plenty.
Lots. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. And are those laws confusing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. This
Aren't
law...
they meant to be?
Have you ever looked at the really funny laws? Like you can't walk an elephant down the interstate or something crazy.
Wow.
So that's man's mind of trying to come up with something that makes sense for everybody. It really doesn't make sense for everybody. And the law really, as much as we hope that it's fair, if it's not based upon literally like the Christianity of the 10 Commandments, it really favors different groups of people. And based on how you look at the law and how you apply it in your way, it can mean 2 totally different things. And what's unfair is the way that they are really portraying that, like you said, that God is really complicated in the way that he put this out, that we can't really fully understand what he's doing.
That's so great. And laws that work here won't work in other countries. But the law of God, the 10 Commandments, is universal across the board.
So after all of these people keep asking him question after question, look at how they then begin to view God.
There is no hairstyle that can put you in the bad place. We've been through this. The main ones are things like hurting people physically on purpose, okay? Taking their stuff, doing things to people they don't want done, murdering people on purpose. Okay, number 9. The man in the sky who controls everything decides if you go to the good place or the bad place. He also decides who lives and who dies.
Does he cause natural disasters?
Yes.
Did he cause my mom to get cancer?
Yes.
Did he cause that tree to land on my car last week?
Yeah.
Did he kill my dad with that heart attack?
Yeah.
Wow.
So how do you think people are going to now start to view God?
Reject him.
Right? That's exactly what happens in the crowd.
I say the man that lives in the sky. Yeah, that guy's evil.
That guy's a coward, hiding up there doing bad things to us. Why doesn't he do it to our faces?
We have to stop that evil before he kills us all.
Wait, listen.
So, Kendi, you grew up in Christianity.
I don't remember this scene. It's wild.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
How can you watch something with so much, you know, you think of it as a child. I mean, my kids are fully aware of the 10 Commandments, fully aware of like lots of concepts about the Bible. And I'm sure if they get to the teenage age range, which they're not teenagers yet, hopefully they'll have a lot of these really established ideas that, you know, God is ultimately loving, God is ultimately, you know, up there wanting and desiring of our good. He wrote the 10 Commandments for our good, but yet you see this conflicting information going in.
And that's the thing, thank God of my upbringing, because I was actively in church. We did have discussions in the home with family worship and all of that. So although I did get exposed to this, there was also the heavy truth coming in as well. But picture the person that doesn't have that. And did you guys identify the lie within that bit of truth? Like, did God do this? Yes. Did God do that? Did he do it or did he allow it?
Yeah.
I think those are two very different.
Yeah, and I think somebody having a heart attack, I mean, yes, we are living in a sinful world, so, ultimately, can God stop that? Which goes back to Keith's question. If God has the ultimate power to stop it and he doesn't, then all of a sudden it's his fault.
Well, like, are you sitting around eating a bunch of greasy burgers all day long,
right?
And clogging your arteries, but God's going to take care of it? Because,
smoking cigarettes and, not exercising, not putting good, healthy things inside of your
even
body.
That story in the Bible of the man who couldn't walk, or was he blind? And the disciples asked God, okay, why? Why was he born blind? What did his parents do? And God said, well, some things are done for my glory. So it's not always a negative thing. Maybe that person died of a heart attack for some greater cause that we don't know.
I've thought of that too. That I think there's people that are drawn to God when they go to a funeral because they're having to face that this is a real thing. One day I will be in that box, and what's going to happen to me? And if I have to die to save somebody else, then it's worth it. I mean.
Again, I'm gonna go back to this and say, this is probably a strange way to put it, but I don't blame their reaction.
Yeah.
Because based on what they've been told, their reaction is logical.
Right.
If God is responsible for all this pain and suffering in their life and they haven't been explained everything else, then what they're doing is rejecting this false idea about God, because now God is not love.
Yeah.
This is almost a call for Christianity to step up their game and put the character of God out there as the truth about who God is. We need to do a better job. I mean, I like that this is getting drawn out of this conversation, rather than we need to just write legislation, something, get hundreds of signatures trying to get them to take this down, right? Which is basically how they would do it if it was on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, right.
But for us, a better way of dealing with this whole issue would be, hey man, get more involved in your church. Get more involved in preaching the righteousness of Christ and getting out there and being a living example of that.
Ultimately, for Christianity, I mean, the devil, he's very smart. And he's put us in this, what appears to be, a lose-lose situation, right? So if we don't live as the Bible's called us to live, he's going to sit there and poke fun of Christianity, right? And Christians. You guys are dumb. Look at you guys. Losers. If we live like we're supposed to live, then we have the example of what happened in the New Testament church, the early church. What did he do? He persecuted Christianity so hard that people were killed.
Yeah.
So for a Christian, you're in this standpoint of like, it's kind of the cross we have to bear, right? We're either going to be made fun of, by the devil, poking fun of it and pointing, like it says in, what's the text? It's in, is it in Zechariah chapter 3? Where the devil is hurling accusations at Joshua. Look at this guy, filthy rags. It's no good, He's the accuser of the brethren. So he's going to sit there and poke at you every time he can. But if you live like you're called to live, he has to try to snuff out your life because you're an example of Christ. Well, that's what he did to Christ.
Even Job, the most righteous man around or whatever, Satan's like, let me get him. He didn't care to go after, the atheist.
And God let him display that because at the end of the day, what was really on display right there?
Yeah, it was God's character.
It was God's character, but it was also the devil's character was on display as well. This guy's righteous and doesn't deserve any of what you did to him.
Exactly.
Yep.
And look at what you did to him. Do you know what the rest of the universe was doing? Looking at that going, wow, dude, really, Satan?
Yeah, you were the one that's trying to convince us.
This guy doesn't deserve any of that, and you're going to do
you
that
did it
to
anyway?
him?
And his response
Now
too.
he's the loser.
That's right. So look at how this whole thing kind of ends up.
The man who lives in the sky and controls everything is also responsible for all the good stuff that happens.
He's the guy that saved my life on that fishing trip when the boat capsized?
Yes.
Did he capsize the boat?
Yeah.
He killed my grandmother and left me those millions of dollars?
You bet ya.
So he's the one who cured my mom's cancer.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a good guy, but he's also kind of a too.
Right, but check this out, okay? Number 10. Even if the man in the sky does bad stuff to you, he makes up for it by giving you an eternity of good stuff after you die.
As long as you don't do any of that bad stuff that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of a test.
Well, that's everything I know.
They could have taken this film anywhere. Anywhere at all. And here we are. Wow.
It really goes back to, do we fully understand, as Christians, what the purpose of God's holy law really is all about? I mean, is it just a bunch of rules? Like they said, are literally, God's going to do good things to you as long as you follow what his rules are. Is that really the purpose of it? Because what does that then do to our motives for doing this?
Right.
Right? We just want to do what God wants because I want some stuff, dude.
Right.
I want a bigger mansion. You know what I mean? Like I want X, Y, Z, or or even on the other side of the coin, I'm going to do this because I just fear. Like God's going to do some bad stuff to me if I don't do what He's asking me to do. So I want to really show a couple of verses that really lay out what is the 10 Commandments? What is the purpose of this? Is this really something that, listen, only Jesus needed to deal with and we don't need to deal with at all? So let's go over some of these verses. Here's a New Testament verse, 1 John 2, 3 through 5. And hereby we know that we know Him if we keep His commandments.
Wow.
He that saith, I know Him, and keepeth not His commandments is a what?
Liar.
Liar, and the truth is not in him.
One of the things God hates.
One of the things that God hates. But whosoever keepeth His word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby we know that we are in Him.
And is this far out? Are we best friends with liars? Do we like when people lie to us?
No.
God isn't asking for anything far out of what we expect from each other.
Yeah.
And what I think is amazing is it's like, how do we know God? How do we get to know God?
Just like we get to know a friend, we talk to them, we spend time with them.
That's right. We want to know what that person is like,
Yeah.
right? And a way for us to know what God is like is we can actually look at His law and say, isn't that interesting that this law right here is the very foundation of the government of heaven?
And then we can take it a step further than that. It's so important that He said, I love you so much, I'm going to cover the cost of breaking it for you.
Amen.
But I can't just get rid of it. Because if I could just get rid of it and dismiss it, it really dismisses who I am.
Yeah.
And if I could just wave my hand and move it out of the way, it certainly would have been a lot easier. But it's so important to me that stays in place. I'm going to pay the penalty on the cross. And then if you go into the books that Paul wrote, you look in Galatians, Ephesians, Colossians, all those, you look through those, and it talks about the Christian walk. Paul actually uses the term walk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it says all these things that we're asked not to do because they're the works of the flesh. But then all these things like the commandments list, it'll say thou shalt not, you don't murder, you don't lust, you don't hate your brother. He lists out thing after thing after thing, and he says that's walking after the Spirit. He's just using different terms to describe walking in God's law, essentially.
And if God were to just get rid of it, what does that say about God's character? Well,
it wasn't all that important.
Yeah, you guys can just lie and commit adultery and steal each other's stuff. Who wants to live in a place like that forever?
I think most any Christian would agree with you that we still need to adhere to these 10 commandments, right?
Well, think about it. Like, for a nation, what makes it free? Is it the lack of laws or is it the laws?
That's right.
For example, and I'm just saying this because this is the most recent thing that I'm aware of, is the gay marriage law. So they weren't free before the law was in place. they needed the law to bind their marriage. So it's when the law came in that they have now this freedom.
Interesting.
That's a
That
good
is
way
a
to
very
go.
good point.
Here, I'd like to just read this because it reinforced the point I was making. This is from Galatians 5. It says, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So this lust of the flesh idea, this is bad, right? Okay, this is bad. And these are contrary to one another. In other words, these things are opposite. Walking by the Spirit, lust of the flesh, opposite things, right? So that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you're led by the Spirit, you're not under the law. We're going to see why. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresy, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and of the like. In other words, the list goes on that are similar. It doesn't stop here. And he continues, of which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God.
So is it important for us to adhere to the Ten Commandments?
Absolutely.
No brainer.
I mean, I'm looking at these going, these are New Testament verses. This is post Jesus dying on the cross.
Right.
So the important part, and this is for our viewership, the important part is nobody does that without the power of Christ in their life, accomplishing it for them. Nobody. Everybody needs Christ working then in their life to do those things.
And I think that's where the kind of hang up is on the commandments, is a lot of people will say, it's legalism and you're just trying to work your way to heaven. You're right. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to get you to heaven. There's no amount of, if you keep this law to the letter, just like the Jews were really good at it, that didn't save them. It was more than that. And it's not saying that you have to do this in order to get over to here, but the Bible also says the reverse side of this, if you want to know God, you got to do it.
Or you will do it.
You will do it.
When you know him, your desires become his desires. You have a transformed, you're a new creation. You have a renewing of the mind. You're not going to want to do these.
You walk in those things because of the love that you have for Christ, for what he's done for you. In other words, you don't do them because you want to be saved. You do them because you are.
That's right.
There you
I'm
go.
a child of the King.
There
Here's
you
the
go.
laws of liberty.
There you go.
Remember the rich young ruler?
Yeah.
And how he presented, I've done all 10 plus. What else do I need to do to be saved? And Christ is like, give everything away and follow me. In other words, have a relationship with me. That was what was lacking.
Right.
And that was the missing piece.
Which is really what the Ten Commandments is about. Your relationship with God, your relationship with man, and it exposed that his selfish desires were he held on to his stuff more than he cared about following after the Son of God. So Jesus hit him right where this is your issue. You may have kept these things like you think you kept them, but really, really deep down inside, you have more love for your own possessions than you do for me. That was what he really showed him.
You were saying earlier, there's everything can be boiled down to these 10 principles, which really, what you were just saying is they can really be boiled down to 2 principles.
Right.
But really those 2 principles can be boiled down to 1 principle, and that is love, right? Romans 14:7 says this, for none of us lives to himself, and no one dies to himself, right? In other words, it's all about serving and loving everybody else and putting God and everybody else before yourself. Self is last.
Amen. Amen. I wanted to read to you the definition of hate speech. I actually looked it up because I found it very interesting that there were so many examples of slamming Christianity, but we don't consider that to be hate speech. So I just wanted to read to you the definition. An abusive or threatening speech in writing that expresses prejudice against a particular group, especially on the bias of race, religion, or sexual orientation.
religious right in there.
That's pretty interesting that, it's okay to literally make fun of the Christian, but in the same breath, turn around and say that because you adhere to biblical principles, that is all of a sudden hate against a specific demographic because they have a different sexual orientation than you. I just throwing that out there, that it's a very interesting battle that's going on between these two groups, really.
Or how their whole fight is, we want tolerance, love, acceptance, and tolerance, but we hate the Christian.
Right.
That's not tolerance.
Right. So, I just love where this conversation is going. I do not believe that our job is to stand up and fight against this, or to try and silence any particular group. I believe that we live in a world of free speech. You know what I mean? If this is your views, you should have the ability to express your views. And, that's just what I believe. So I want to read a verse to you from Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, not thoughts of evil, and to give you an expected end." What do you think this verse means?
The Lord wants what is best for us across the board.
This is what I believe that is at the core of why God does everything that he does. He's not like these jokes have been portraying him, that he's got something to hide, or that he's really, selfish, or he's really out for his own means or whatever like this. He really does have our best interest in mind. And so sometimes there are decisions that are made that are hard for us to understand. Sometimes when we read the Old Testament God, it's like, it doesn't seem like it's the New Testament God. What do you think are some of the reasons why there seems to be such a variety of ways that God deals with us, Old Testament versus New Testament?
Because he has to work with what we give him. His approach is different to each person, which I'm thankful for sure. I mean, in raising multiple children, you know that your approach is different from one to the other. So that's the way I look at it.
That's right. God is the same today as he is tomorrow, and will be in the same in the future. And so it's like, I can understand this perspective from being a parent. I do deal with my children in a different way. They're just going to need a different form of interaction to understand concepts, whether it be discipline or whatever.
But you're the same person, and your love for both of them is the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the way that I deal with them, they may look at it and say, that's not fair, and you're doing this to me. I don't know if you hear this from your kids. I hear it from my kids. You didn't do this to this one, but you did it to me. And but it's really given me a perspective to understand how God operates as well. And I think that there's contextual things in the Old Testament that we don't understand because of lack of history or whatever. We're not fully grasping what was going on back then. We're looking at this through the modern eyes and stuff. And so we look at it and we go, hey, that's just ridiculous how he reacted back there. But there's a lot of things that we would think are crazy about what happens today as opposed to back then.
Like
so
people used to kill their children back then. Oh wait, that happens now.
Right, right.
It's just a different.
Right.
For I know the thoughts that I think towards you. As if like, here it is, here's the playbook out, and it has an expected end. This is guaranteed if you follow it step by step. And I have nothing but what's best for you. But it's your choice, it's your decision. Go by the rule book or the playbook and get that expected end, or you can have, the other thing that you choose. Yeah. But it's like God has the best intentions, and it's right out there for you to view and know your expected end.
I think it's important to remember that the Bible doesn't record every single act or every single thing that God did ever in history.
Right. That'll be
It gives us examples of things that were done. And so we have to take God for who he is and apply that to all times and places, for example. So the Bible says the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long-suffering to us or toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. If God is like that now, God has been like that in the past. And we can take, for example, like the story of Jonah. Jonah was sent to a nation that, he, in his eyes, deemed wicked and worthy of destruction. And we see examples where God did destroy nations. But he did it, if you notice, by and large, he did it on like an executive governmental level. He didn't do it like on a personal level, like you need to go kill that person and you need to go kill that person. God is not like sending people out to be assassins. He's saying, no, I'm using a nation to execute divine justice. With this verse, it tells us that God, somehow, some way that's not recorded or we don't understand, was reaching out to those nations, trying to get them to come to repentance. And when they did not, then God said, okay, you've reached the limit, and now this has to be done. The wages of sin is death. It's always been that way. It will always be that way.
One way that we can see that example is when God actually told the children of Israel to go through and not touch certain people, that their iniquity had not filled up the cup to its level. And so that's God saying, I'm still working with these people right here. I'm not going to allow them to be executed at this point. And I think, you know, in some cases it was 400 years plus that God was patiently waiting for these people. But I think in the end of time, we will see that even if God gave them thousands of more years, they wouldn't have chosen him. And that judgment was passed at a point where it didn't matter what God would have done, they literally wouldn't have turned around.
We also have the example of even Israel as God's people. They still suffered for the things that they did, and God used other nations to bring judgment upon them.
Right.
Some of them died and were put in prison and had horrible things happen to
Blood
them.
flowed in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's where this is kind of really going, though. Why I wanted to start out this conversation really about, you know, these things that are, for lack of a better term, they're very super blasphemous, right? I actually seriously even have a hard time even wanting to play this kind of stuff. Do you? Do you feel uncomfortable? I hope you feel uncomfortable. I mean, if you're watching some of these clips and you don't feel uncomfortable, there's a problem, okay? So the reason why I wanted to play this for you was because I believe that in the very end, when we speak of the mark of the beast or the beast power or this whole thing that's coming to accumulation in the end of the world, the Bible says in Revelation 13, and this is where it's talking about the beast, it's describing the beast, and starting with verse 3, it says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And the whole world wandered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, and blasphemed his name, and in his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven." Wow. So, where this whole thing is basically festering and accumulating to is a place where the devil is going to be instrumentally involved in whatever this beast power is in the end of the world, right? And we know that it's going to have a heavy blasphemous connotation.
He's going to be given a mouth to speak blasphemies. The media is a platform, a mouth, if you will, to speak blasphemies.
So think about this. When mainstream Hollywood is constantly blaspheming God, constantly putting this idea of it's a joke, he's just nothing good, he's just this other guy, and they're constantly trying to change this. Could that be priming the public to someday accept this type of a mark of the beast?
Wow. Ask it again.
Is the final accumulation of Satan and his whole organization that he has, which is going to be of a religious order in the very end of the world. He's going to use a religious order that's going to speak blasphemies against God. Is it possible that all this media is literally preparing the masses or people to literally understand blasphemies against God? Or literally to go along with blasphemies against God? Because you know what? One thing that if you hear something over and over and over again, you know what it does? It knocks down your defenses. And so I see a problem. Even if you're a Christian, and even if you say, I totally believe in God, and this is not going to influence me whatsoever. I like The Simpsons. I'm going to watch The Simpsons, and ha ha ha. They're making fun of their little Christian neighbor, whatever like this. You know what that's doing to you over and over and over again?
It's practice. You see that, you laugh. You see it, you laugh. You don't take it seriously. You see it, you laugh. Blasphemy is spoken. Oh, it's nothing. You laugh and move on.
I think the strongest point that we can have, if we really honestly love God and really want to do His bidding, is to basically say, you know what, I'm going to turn it the other way.
Right.
I'm not going to watch this.
It takes just as much practice to
I'm
do
not
that.
going to engage in this.
Right.
I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to walk the other way. If they're making fun of God in this, I'm out.
Yeah. It's a charge.
It's a charge, brothers and sisters.
We will do it, and we charge you too.
That's right. So I hope that you guys, got a little blessing from this. This was not just to show you, oh, look, the whole world is against Christianity. I think there's some really great things that came out of this discussion, actually, that I wasn't quite anticipating. I actually loved what Keith brought out in this whole discussion about, hey, look, we are doing a disservice in portraying Christ. And that is something that you guys can really hopefully take to heart. Listen, if the world is not seeing a clear picture of who God is, then that's a call for us. That's a call for us to get involved in churches, get involved in supporting ministries, whether it be working for them, financial donations, whatever you want to get involved in your local church level. Brothers and sisters, the time is coming that this beast power is about ready to step on the scene. And I believe that it is going to be a time of such confusion that you don't even want these little seeds planted in your mind at all. So learn to turn things off, learn to turn the other way, learn to disengage from that media of the world that is literally putting our God in a false light, and learn to go out and show the world who God really is. Amen. Thank you guys for watching, and we hope and pray that you like this video. Subscribe to our channel. We got lots of videos like this coming out, and thank you all once again for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Friday.